Well, hello, my friends in the film fandom, wherever you may be and however you may be watching. Thank you so much for giving us just a little bit of your time. Get a dip into the 90s now, and of course, Jeremy had some stuff come up and couldn't be here. The moment I started to show the 90s some love, he's nowhere around to try to actually defend this terrible decade entertainment, but we're going to do it anyway because this is actually a really good movie, one of the better offerings of the 1990s. So let's break it all down with the remaining crew, the rest of the usual crew tonight, starting with the Dowager Countess, Lady Cora. How are you tonight, ma'am?
I'm doing pretty good for being unemployed. Life's good.
It happens. It happens to all of us. And to our good friend from down south, the shape from Lone Star State, my man Tex. What's up, brother?
The greatest trick the devil may have ever pulled is to fool everybody all that right, but he obviously didn't learn how to shoot because he does the whole sideways gun thing. It really bugged me. I can't wait to talk about it. So,
It looks great
it
on
is what it
camera,
is.
but not does not practically work. And to be absolutely honest, if you know anything about guns, you know it doesn't even look good. It doesn't even look that good. It's theatrical. That's the only reason you hold a gun like that.
Yeah, it's yeah,
Yeah.
it's one of those things. I'm a gun nerd. I can't help myself. What do you got to do? It's all
Yes, we
good.
are. Real quick, don't forget to vote in the poll. If you've seen The Usual Suspects, and you should have by now, the movie is like 30 years old. If you've seen The Usual Suspects, let us know what you think of it. Do you think it was great? Do you think it was meh? Or do you think it was straight shit? Go down into the poll, vote in the poll, let us know. And Lady Cora, why don't you tell us a little bit about the movie we'll be talking about tonight?
Well, The Usual Suspects is a 1995 neo-noir mystery film directed by Bryan Singer and written by Christopher McQuarrie. It stars Stephen Baldwin, Gabriel Byrne, Benicio del Toro, Kevin Pollak, Chazz Palminteri, Pete Postlethwaite, and Kevin Spacey. The plot follows the interrogation of Roger quote verbal nickname Kint, a small-time con man who is one of only two survivors of a massacre and fire on a ship docked at the port of Los Angeles. Through the flashback and narration, Kint tells an interrogator a convoluted story of events that led him and his criminal companions to the boat and to a mysterious criminal lord known as Keyser Söze, who controlled them. The film was shot on a $6 million budget. The film made $67 million at the box office, and the Rotten Tomatoes and on Rotten Tomatoes, the film received a rating of 88% based on 81 reviews, with an average rating of 7.8 out of 10. The site's consensus reads expertly shot and edited. The Usual Suspects gives the audience a simple plot and then piles on layers of deceit, twists, and violence before pulling out the rug from underneath. The praise was towards the mystery elements, the screenplay, the plot twist, and Spacey's performance. McQuarrie won the Academy Award for Best Original Screenplay, and Spacey won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor for his performance. The Writers Guild of America ranked the film as having the 35th greatest screenplay of all time.
Yeah, definitely lots of praise to be heaped on this film for a lot of different reasons. Maybe not so much for some of the people involved in how things went, but you can't knock the creative drive of somebody. Especially, this is one of the great movies. A couple of guys earlier in their careers, they're just doing some artistic piece that is kind of a bigger scale that feels bigger than it really is. That's kind of what you get with The Usual Suspects. I don't know, Tex. You just watched the movie for the review. Why don't you give me a quick paragraph? What you think of the film?
Um, I wouldn't say it's as good as the Rotten Tomato scores and everybody else seems to praise it to be. It wasn't a bad movie. Yeah, I was entertained. Uh, Sorry, I'm trying to quickly how to summarize it. Good cast, a lot of people. Of course, we'll break all this down, but kind of formulaic in a lot of ways and a bit long for me. I wasn't it. It wasn't my favorite, I guess you could say.
Lady Cora, how about you? You've watched the movie recently. Give us a quick paragraph what you think of the film.
I believe it is a, how do I say this, Agatha Christie-esque uh, who done it, told in unique perspective, and it feels like a cop movie, but really just done through the lens of basically law enforcement trying to figure out what happened with one witness. And the further you go into the movie, the more you get, and then at the end, you're just upended. And I think it's fucking fantastic.
Yeah, I agree. The Agatha Christie comparison is one that I absolutely agree with. I was actually kind of thinking the same thing as I was watching it earlier. And on top of that, it's kind of a heist film. So you get kind of the really cool aspects of both those different kinds of genres mixed into the same thing. And it makes for a really interesting story. Again, it takes a young artistic filmmaker to try to put these two things together that have never gone together before and make something out of them. Most people, especially higher ups in Hollywood that have been around a while and have made bigger movies, might say, "Oh, you never put those two things together. That never works." And it's like, how do you know until you've done it? And then you get a guy like McQuarrie, who now has directed the last 3 or 4 Tom Cruise Mission Impossible movies. You get a young up and coming director like at the time you had Zack Snyder. And then you throw in a couple of guys that are good actors, but it's a great ensemble cast as well. Mix all these things together, and you've got a recipe for some potential magic. And that's kind of what happens in this movie. Is it a bit slow paced at times? But that's kind of what these movies are. They're like Agatha Christie, for example. Those kinds of things are very kind of
or
slow.
Poirot, or how do you say that? Poirot. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Poirot, things like that, like Death in the Nile.
Yes.
So, yeah, I mean that's kind of what these things do. They build until you have this massive release of the tension, so it all kind of falls into place, and you're like, oh shit, that's what this whole thing was about for the last 2 hours. It's one of those things where after you get to the point where you realize what is actually happening, and all those things kind of crash into place, instantaneously, you're like, holy shit, now I've just, in the last 5 seconds of my head, I've just watched this movie a totally different way, and now it all makes perfect sense. The bummer about movies like this, though, is you get that shock from the initial viewing, and then if you try to go back and rewatch them, knowing what you know, it doesn't hit quite the same. I mean, I
unless you haven't watched it in 10 to 15 years like me, and I'm a Gabriel Byrne diehard fan. He's the best devil ever in the movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like, fucking fantastic devil. Anyways, I remember seeing this before just for him many years ago, and I haven't seen it since. And I'll be honest, I didn't remember any of it. So I was getting to watch it for the first time, basically. So I had a great time today.
Yeah, it had been a while since I had seen it, but man, but again, knowing what I know, it was great to watch it all fall into place as the movie went on. But knowing what I know, that when you finally get that big reveal at the end, it didn't hit quite the same as it did when I first watched the movie. But let's talk real quick about that opening scene. I'll go to you first, Lady Cora. That really is kind of the antithesis of what this entire movie is about.
Well, isn't that the start of a recipe for a whodunit, because you get to see the end before you see what led up to it. And I love how they said present day, yesterday, and all that. It had an air of fun to it when they do that. And so you know the ending. At least you think you know the ending. It's as if they're like, this is what you think the ending's going to be, and then it's actually going to be something else, because you get the last bit at the very end that you didn't see at the beginning preview. So it's like a teaser, but it's not everything. So you can kind of sink your teeth into. And the thing that gets me is, Gabriel Byrne dies. And so it's like, you're like, I forgot that part. Great. Why does he die? So then you want to know what happened. So.
Yeah, but the opening scene, it's like I said, it really does set up kind of what this movie's about, the whole murder mystery thing. You just basically see the aftermath of everything that happens on the boat, and then you're left with this question of who is the last man standing. All these guys died, but then you get the question of how does this all get to where it gets, and then you get to spend the entire movie listening to the character of Kint. It's just kind of like going through the whole motions, and you get to see it it's almost like in a Tarantino style. It's not so much out of place, but it's chapter like storytelling in film, which I thought was really interesting. But that whole opening scene, it really was like something out of a mystery book, a visualized version of that.
Like, this could have been written as a book, and you could read it almost like if you've been given the screenplay, it would be very easy to follow what the movie's going to look like. Unlike, say, like when we were talking about The Matrix the other day, you'd need storyboards to have any idea what it was. So the simplicity of this is beautiful to me.
Yeah, I'll go to you next, Text. I mean, the opening scene. Yeah, no boobs, but plenty of murder. I mean, it was. I mean, it's easily probably, other than maybe the last like 10 or 15 minutes, it's easily the most exciting part of the movie. I mean, it's the one that really gets your blood pumping. What do you think of the opening scene and how it set up the rest of the film?
I thought the opening looked incredible. I don't know if this was if they shot this on a back lot or if it was actually on a dock somewhere. I don't know where this was shot at, but it looked incredible. The set design was great, acted very well. Whenever old boy's just, I mean, you can tell he's on death's door. He just looks up and he knows he's done for. He just, I can't feel my legs. Like,
Yeah,
just
I remember that.
even the way it's acted out, he's a man that knows he's out of options. Like he's played his whole hand, and he goes, well, this is I'm about to punch my ticket basically. So I like how it was played out. He played it through a place of kind of an odd strength. I mean, even though he knew he had nothing to do left, he still kept he went out a man. He didn't beg, he didn't plead, he just accepted it, kind of thing. And the explosions, they looked great. The action was cool. It was for as much of a talking kind of film this is, you needed to start with something big to kind of draw you in to take you on the roller coaster. You know what I'm saying? So I thought the opening was very well done. I do have to give that credit. I liked it.
Yeah, something about the noir style of filming is it gives things, even modern things, this kind of classic look. It's almost like the way that like black and white of you get a woman in a pretty dress, you take the picture in black and white. The black and white adds a little bit of elegance for some reason, probably because we all look at the pictures of yesteryear from the early 1900s. They're all black and white, but everybody dressed up just to go to the grocery store. But yeah, there's something in the way that in that noir style of filming that makes even if it's, like I said, even if it's modern day, it makes it feel old and classic. It makes it feel like it's from a time long gone, which gives it kind of a different it brings a different excitement to me to know that I'm going to sit down and watch a movie like one of the old Howard Hughes movies from the 30s or something like that. It kind of the opening sequence being shot like that really did kind of give me that feel. And it's one of the things that kind of settles you into the movie really, really quickly. It's not just the style of the movie. It's just it sets everything in place, and you're like, okay, I'm along for the ride. Let's go. But the cast, I mean, Cora's already touched on it a little bit, but I'll go to you first, Text. I mean, the cast of this movie was, I mean, even at the time, a lot of these guys were already names. I mean, Gabriel Byrne notwithstanding, Kevin Spacey had been around for a while. Kevin Pollak had been around for a while. These guys had all been around. But it really not really a cast of home run hitters, but a cast of really good high average guys, to use the baseball term. What do you think of the cast, and who really stood out to you for the duration of the film?
Yeah, no, I thought casting was well for this. I've always been a fan of Stephen Baldwin. He got to play. I mean, I come from people that love rodeo, and I rode bulls myself. Stephen Baldwin played Tuff Hedeman in 8 Seconds. Tuff Hedeman was my favorite bull rider, and ever since then, I've always been a fan of him. And I thought Stephen Baldwin did amazing in this film. Somebody that when I watched this, I'm like, is that Giancarlo Esposito? And I had to go look, and sure enough, it was.
Yes, it was.
I don't know when he started in Hollywood, but the only thing that I've ever known him for was obviously Breaking Bad. But he didn't have a lot to do in this movie, but I thought he was excellent for what he was given. It's a shame Kevin Spacey is such a dirtbag, but because he's a hell of an actor. I mean, you can't take that away from the guy, even though he's a terrible person. But obviously Kevin Spacey's great in this role. He's our narrator. He's our eyes and ears for everything that we're going through. But yeah, those three for me were really the standouts of all of them, if I had to say.
Yeah, Cora, how about you? You've already made it pretty clear that you like you some Gabriel Byrne, but I
He's
mean,
just so fascinating as an actor. He steps into a role, and he reminds me of Patrick Stewart in a way of how he takes on a role, and he brings class to everything, but he really makes you feel like the character exists. So that's why I'm a big fan of him. Um, I think the cast altogether is fantastic, even down to the guy who plays the lawyer. I mean, he only has what, two
Oh, yeah.
scenes really? Okay, three really. And I mean, they got good on a budget of $6 million. They got some fantastic people. These people must have said, "Hey, do me a favor. You want to, do this quick little thing on this project for me?" And back in the day, they didn't know what this was going to be, and now it's kind of a cult classic, and it had the attention from the Academy Awards. It was a diamond in the rough that they didn't know was going to stand out, and The Usual Suspect is one that does stand out for me, and I honestly believe the bulk of the reasoning is the cast. They could have set this with any random amount of nobodies, and it probably would have been a great story, but it wouldn't have stood up because the cast didn't. So for me, that's what it is.
yeah, for one, Gabriel Byrne, great. I mean, there's, like Cora said, he's been the devil like 7 or 8 times in different movies, and he's been fantastic in each of them. And he's also very good when he's not playing the devil. I mean, Tex, I'm sure you've seen Ghost Ship. It's like even when he's not playing a bad guy, there is this weird ominous when he's the good guy, because he's a good guy for that movie. But there is this ominous presence that he has about him that draws your attention. But he is a very good actor, whether he's playing a good guy or a bad guy or the devil or whoever. He's a very seasoned actor. But I've got to point out something you said about Stephen Baldwin. I really do think that his range is way beyond anything ever gives him credit for. I mean, because he does. I believe him this entire movie as somebody who's basically a cold-blooded assassin. I believed him in 8 seconds, where that entire movie is actually very, very good. Maybe one
You
of these
mean
days.
that moment after he shoots the 2 security guards? He says, "Well, that's a bad day."
Yeah, he's a
cold.
Yeah, absolutely believe him as a cold-blooded human being. But then again, you watch him in a movie like Biodome, and he's still very entertaining in Biodome, and that to me is great range. And I think that it's very sad that amongst all the Baldwins that have been successful, he's kind of been the little brother to all of them, because his range is actually very, very good.
And I think it's underrated. I mean, Alec gets all the attention.
Oh, yeah.
All of the Baldwins, say what you will about some of them, all of the Baldwins have had pretty good range. I mean, we've seen them all do comedy, we've seen them all do drama, and they're actually really good at all the roles. They're very watchable, very entertaining. But I think he's one that has kind of gotten lost in the fray because he's like the 4th person named Baldwin to get into acting. So by the time he started acting, we were all kind of Baldwined out. You know what I mean?
Well, when it comes to Steve, like I said, 8 seconds is. I mean, I'm not an emotional guy. I rarely even cry at funerals. I don't do the emotional thing. But watching 8 seconds is it's how most people say they cry at Old Yeller. Watching 8 seconds for me is that kind of film, because I did that. I did that sport. I know that lifestyle. Lane Frost, the cowboy that dies in that film, I know his family personally. His mom and daddy's big in the church. I've seen him. I know him personally. And when he played the way he played Teth Hedeman in that film, that instantly made me a fan of him, because he gave you the hardcore cowboy kind of stuff. But whenever his best friend dies, you see the other side of him. I've always thought Stephen Baldwin, he never, kind of like you said, he never got the big break. He never got the chance to stand out, because there was so much competition, I guess, with people of the same last name of his. But that's the way that it goes. He was a supporting guy, but one of the best. I mean, I got to give it to him.
Yeah, I thought he was very, very good in this movie. It's not just that, but like I said, his range is something that should be noted, because it's this or Biodome. In both these movies, he's wildly entertaining. This one is the cold-blooded killer, and Biodome is the stoner who fucks up the whole scientific experiment.
And let's be honest, of all the main characters, except for Gabriel Byrne, who's supposedly trying to go clean, and Kevin Spacey's character, who we just don't know anything about all that well, and you think he's low-level criminal with no experience, Stephen Baldwin's character is the most sellable to be truly believable. I mean, he owns it. He's a criminal. He
Yeah.
doesn't seem to care. He's the first one to talk about it in the jail cell, I believe. And he when his friend dies, he almost has a sense of pride in the work he did, even though it was really not something most people would be proud of. He's like, I did jobs with the man for years, as if he was someone who was talking, like as if he was a firefighter talking about a comrade who died on the job. So, I mean, he owns it, he lives it, and he is very believable. So he sells it well.
Well, not even just that, but the scene at the end of the film, whenever he takes he takes that flight jacket off to dip down into that tunnel or whatever, basically to hide because he knows he's screwed. I mean, he's already tried to leave. There's no way out. He's not going to get away, and he's got like moisture on his face, and you can't quite tell if it's tears or if it's sweat, but you can see the emotion of, well, once again, this is it kind of thing. This is the end of the journey. And the way that I mean, he doesn't even say anything in those scenes. It's just, you can feel the desperation that he's going through at that time. And it's just, I thought he was a standout in this film. And if I was going to be anybody in this film, that's the role I would have wanted to be. I thought it was done well.
Yeah, what did you guys think of the basic plot of the film? Like I said, at its core, it's kind of a heist film, but it seems like there's a lot of personal stuff going on with all of these people. So it's not just a straight up, we're going to steal this stuff, we're going to get this drugs, we're going to get this money or whatever. There seems to be a lot of the personal stuff that plays into it for these characters individually. I'll go to you first, Tex. Did the plot of the film work for you, or was it a little bit too, maybe a little bit cluttered with the personal stuff?
Well, number one, I thought Christopher Nolan did the plot of this film much better very quickly in the opening scene of The Dark Knight with the whole Joker heist thing, because that's basically what he did in that film. That was the first stuff that came to my head, especially once I got to the end. But I thought it was very convoluted. We're starting out, oh, well, we're being put into the lineup. Now we're doing this. Now we're going to California. They throw a lot at you, and I understand it's like y'all said in the beginning of this review, it's chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3. I get that kind of storytelling. It's a very Pulp Fiction like film, but it's nowhere near done as well as Pulp Fiction is. Doesn't mean it's not well acted. It's just, I think they could have trimmed it down a little bit and would have been a lot better, because there's a lot of wordy parts in here that I think drag quite a bit. But I think a little less would have went a lot further, but that's just me.
I agree. Lady Cora, what do you think? I mean, did the plot work for you?
I think it did very well, but like I said, I've read a lot of books and seen a lot of things that are kind of follow this model. So for me, it's something I relate to and like. And I will say that the whole California thing, I think they could have laid a little bit of a foundation of them going, rather than go, well, of course we go to him in California. Well, I guess we're all going to get them to a different city. I really don't see the need for it to go to a different city, New York area or whatever. It's a big enough area that I think they could have had all the LA stuff happen in New York. That's the only thing that I'm like, huh. But if you're trying to get the girlfriend to I don't know. It just, that's the one part of the plot that I go, that didn't need to be necessary, but whatever. I think they purposely put a lot of things in, like you were saying, a lot of the personal stuff, because they're trying to like a quilt, give you so much that you have to look at, so many little sections that you can't immediately figure out what the punchline is. So it's just, I think it's creating the mystery, and if you like that style, great. If you don't, you don't. But for me, it worked. It was intentional, I think. So.
Yeah, again, you combine the filming style with this kind of a plot, make it a heist movie, and you get something that feels very good. It feels good to watch. Then you get the you get the acting from guys like Gabriel Byrne and Kevin Spacey and so on, and even guys like Chazz Palminteri and some of the supporting guys. People like Kevin Pollak, Benicio del Toro. I mean, Benicio del Toro is one of the great actors of a generation. Kevin Pollak, again, one of the great character actors. It works out so well. Crime stories are inherently addictive. I mean, there's a reason why true crime stories and podcasts and TV shows and all that stuff are so terribly popular, because there is something about the crime world that attracts people. Maybe not to live a life of crime, but to learn about it, to observe it, and to watch it, even if it's just on film, and to watch this group of thieves come together over this thing. I mean, it's like watching a movie like Heat. I look at the cast of this movie the same way I look at the cast of the movie Heat. I get wrapped up in these characters as people as much as I get wrapped up in them as thieves. And I think it's really easy to do that to these people as well. So it makes the story work out pretty well. Because, I mean, look, there have been a million heist movies before this. There have been a million heist movies after this. But to make this one stand out, you had to have something else. And the ones that do stand out, they have something else. This, Heat, things like that. I mean, there is, again, it's the catching lightning in a bottle. Every now and again when you do it, it's fantastic. And I think it works very well in this movie with the plot, because heist movies, like I said, they're fun to watch, but they're hard to make stick. And I think they made this movie stick over the years because of just how complete of a piece of art this entire film was. What were you about to say, Tex?
Oh, well, I was just going to say, what I was going to say was it was more of a criticism of the ending of the plot, so I was going to hold it till the end of the review, because it's probably going to be a talkative. Once I say this, it's probably going to kick off a lot of conversation, so I don't want to jump quite to the end. But I mean, as far as the heist thing goes, what you were just saying, normally in heist films, you don't have 2 or 3 different heists that you're going on. You're introduced to it at maybe 2 at the most. You have your you have your introductory heist to show off your team. Oh, well, here's all the guys. Here's what they do. Then you get to the main one. This is like 3 or 4, maybe even 5 different plans and heists and everything going on. It's just like I said a minute ago. Trimming it down and highlighting the best parts would have been the better way to go for me with the plot of this film, because I found it really hard to follow at times. And I'm someone that I get movies. I'm a visual learner. That's how I interact, and that's how I get most of my knowledge. And even for somebody like me, it was kind of hard to keep up with, I got to be honest.
My only problem with the ending was that it was kind of, I get the plot twist, and it was a good plot twist, but I don't like it when I find out the entire sense, though. Well, I mean, it does when you realize that he's Keyser Söze.
Right, but
the whole time he was in that guy's office, and he was the one that was guilty of all the shit to begin with. So,
right, but here's the problem. His whole point in going to California. Hang on a minute, y'all talk.
But I think it makes sense. Like I said, my problem with some endings like this is I feel like it was all a lie. But sometimes it's like that. It's like when you read a book that's really great about this crazy shit that happens, and then at the end in the last page of the book they say, and then I woke up, it was all a dream. And I was like, so you just lied to me for this entire book. None of the shit actually happened. Part of me thinks that was kind of the ending that we got with this, because I don't know how much of this actually happened and how much of this was some figment of his imagination just to string the cops along.
Yeah.
Because we know that they all died, and we know that he probably killed them all, but I mean, the stuff in between, we don't really know how much of it was accurate. We just make this assumption as a viewer that all this stuff happened exactly the way that he described it, only he was the one that was playing the role of the guy pushing the buttons, the guy behind the curtain, so to speak. And you know, that's kind of what it gets explained. So I wonder how much sometimes of the ride that they took us on for the course of this movie was actual true. Because if more than half of it ends up just kind of being bullshit, then I feel like I'd be getting strung out a little bit. You know what I mean?
Well, here's the problem, though. The whole point of everything that happens in this movie is to go to California to get this guy. He's the only guy that knows what Keyser Söze looks like, right? He's the only one that can identify this man. Now that's blown out because guess what? Police have a sketch. It's going to be blown up everywhere. Even if this guy just disappears and hides for the rest of his life, now every law agency and anybody else who happens to see this poster knows who this guy is. It's just, to me, it doesn't work. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
I
but
understand
how often has a sketch ever led to somebody actually getting caught? Because a lot of those sketches.
I get that. I'm not saying it's concrete evidence that's going to land him in a Texas Huntsville prison or something. But you undermine the whole ending and point of this film by. I've got two theories on this. Either Kevin Spacey is the Keyser Söze, or there is no actual Keyser Söze, and it's more of an idea, and he's just playing off of it because he's a con man. It's either or. I could go either way with it. But when you look at it, the way it all plays out, it just, if it's true he is Keyser Söze, then he did more damage to himself than he did good. That's all I'm saying. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Cora, do you have any other thoughts before we move on?
I would just say that this is one of those movies that I don't think you're meant to think about it too much. Just enjoy it and, have fun figuring it out or being surprised at the end. And then it's an easy one to watch and not carry around too long. And it's a light movie, and it's nice because sometimes you just want to watch something fun and light and not have it affect you too long or be too sad or depressing or emotional or confusing, like The Matrix for some people. It's confusing. It's a wonderful movie to watch on the random when you're in the mood to watch something, and I love it. So I have probably about 15 movies that are in that kind of category that are just fun go-tos for a quick watch with a great cast and a plot that engages you for those 2 hours, and then you walk away from it. So I like it.
See, I disagree. I think I think that's one of the fun things about a mystery is that it makes you think. Now, maybe you're not thinking about it.
Well, I do
think about it in the way that you think about a mystery, not necessarally
right.
Deep
I mean,
thought,
I will say this: when you walk away from this movie, you wonder, did he really kill his wife and kids, or is that just a story he told?
That's
what I'm saying. You wonder how much this is bullshit.
That's like the only question I leave with. That honestly, for me, so I like it. But
that's what I'm saying is, I mean, we're dealing with an unreliable narrator here. I mean, go back to the Joker film with Joaquin Phoenix. Did he really fall in love with the neighbor? Did this happen? Did that really happen? Is he really Thomas Wayne's son? I mean, there's so many questions. I don't know. Like I said, I didn't do any other research for this. I didn't have time to. I just watched the movie and I came here. So all I know is Kevin Spacey is either actual Keyser Söze, which there are some signs, like you see him smoking cigarettes different ways. At sometimes he's smoking it the American way. Other times he's holding it like he's European or whatever. So it would kind of play into is he the Hungarian, is he the whatever. But you have to keep in your mind, this is a con man here. He's a liar. We can't trust a word that he says or anything that he does. And it would be really helpful because, like I said, if his whole reasoning for causing all of this is to kill the one man who could identify him, you just open yourself up to 1,000 other people. Well, it's not just the one
reason. Because when his lawyer came into that room at the pool table, he did want to exact revenge on these 5 people, or excuse me, 4, because he's one of them pretending to be.
Right.
Who did him wrong. So it's a twofer for him.
Right. But it's just very convoluted. And I think Bryan Singer, I think the only films I've ever seen of his would be the X-Men films and the Superman movie that he did. I mean, especially after the controversies that he got into, I didn't really watch any more of his stuff, which is another unfortunate. But I think this movie was a little too smart for him to put together because I can see a lot of glaring plot holes they're plot holes for me. They may not be for somebody else. but it's just, it's one of those things. It really stood out to me very glaringly. So,
Yeah, trying to give you an idea of some of the other things that he's done. Let's see, Lion's Den in '88. I've never heard of. Public Access is a movie he did in 1993. That was actually the film that I guess Kevin Spacey had seen it, and that's what made him want to work. I haven't seen it either, but he said he saw that movie and made him want to. Yeah, I guess he actually reached out to Bryan Singer and said, the next movie you do, I want to be a part of it. And the next movie he did was this movie, his Usual Suspects. But then, of course, he did X-Men. He did Star Trek Nemesis. Not the best Star Trek movie ever made. I actually enjoyed it. I thought it wasn't that bad, but not the best Star Trek movie ever made. He did Trick or Treat in 2007. Actually, I'm sorry. He was one of the producers. He didn't direct it or write it or anything.
Yeah, no. He was one of the producers on that. He didn't direct that.
Yeah. He did Valkyrie with Tom Cruise, which wasn't bad. He worked again with the same writer, Christopher McQuarrie. So I think that's one of the underrated Tom Cruise movies. I actually thought that was a fun movie to watch.
That's one where he plays a Nazi, right?
Yeah, it's about one of the assassination attempts on Hitler during World War II.
Yeah, I never.
And Tom Cruise plays one of the guys who was involved, who was a Nazi officer involved in trying to.
Yeah.
And let's see. And then he actually was officially the director of Bohemian Rhapsody, the biopic about with Queen and about Freddie Mercury. Obviously, he left late in production because some stuff was going. That was when the stuff started to come out, and he was replaced by Dexter Fletcher as the producer. But and then he actually was the producer of X-Men Dark Phoenix, but they removed him from all the credits because of all the stuff that came out. And he was in TV. He was one of the main producers of House. He directed several episodes as well. Let's see.
I didn't know he was attached to House. I actually liked that show. That was a good TV show. I liked that.
Do you remember the Mockingbird Lane show from 2012?
That was the Munsters project that never went anywhere.
Yeah, that was his project.
Really? Okay.
Yes, that was his project.
I remember. They had Jerry O'Connell cast as Herman. It was more of like a realistic take on the Munsters. It actually looks pretty interesting. There's documentaries about it on YouTube that you can go check out. That it never went anywhere. I was kind of upset that it didn't. I was hoping it did.
Yeah, but he's done some things. You've probably seen some stuff. I was towards the end of Bohemian Rhapsody. I think he was kind of replaced as the director, but I think he did most of the movie, and that movie's actually very, very good. I know a lot of Queen fans that kind of had some trouble with the timeline of that movie, but they said the movie itself was actually pretty good. So, for what it's worth. Right. But let's talk about the noir style of filming for just a second. Tex, is that a style of filming that works for you? Or at least for something like this, is it something that are you attracted to the noir style of filming the way that I often am?
Oh yeah, no, I appreciate the noir style. I like watching, because I've just got regular basic television. I don't have cable or satellite or anything, and there's a bunch of like movies channels or whatever, and they'll show older black and white noir kind of films. I enjoy that kind of stuff, and it's. I like. I'm trying to think of what's that movie that Robert Rodriguez did. Sin City. It was based off of the comic books by Frank Miller, but it was done in that noir style, and of course, it was kind of hyper realized and whatever. I like that. I like that style of storytelling. I like they always have a very distinctive look to them, and like you were saying, the woman in the bright dress, but in a black and white photo or whatever. I like the visuals of that kind of stuff. To me, that's very appealing. And I appreciated that about this film. Like when you first see Giancarlo Esposito in this movie, he's got like the fedora hat on and the suit, but you can tell it's modern because he's got the goatee and whatever. So it's like a blending of the, modern with old that I thought played off very well. Like I said, I've always liked Pulp Fiction, and up until Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, it was my favorite Tarantino movie. And it has that same kind of noir storytelling style, like Cora was mentioning a few minutes ago, that you can get into. It kind of had like one of my favorite cop TV shows was Dragnet. from back in the day. I really appreciated that show. I grew up watching it. A lot of this reminded me of that in a lot of good ways. So yeah, I'm down for it.
Yeah, Cora, how about you? A bit of an artistic kind of way of
Mm-hmm.
filming a movie. Does the noir style of filming work for you?
Oh yes, give me Departed, Seven, Mystic River, all of the John Wick films, in my opinions, are neo noir. I am a
Yeah,
fan of, the dramatic contrast in lighting and having very um, unique plots that really make you think. The timeline shifting, isn't that classic of noir films? Like it's not linear. Isn't that a traditional characteristic of
It's
neo noir?
it's
yeah,
something
I
that
could see
happens in
that.
some noir films. Yeah, not all,
Okay,
but
yeah.
Yeah,
some.
So I mean, I'm also, yeah, I'm all for the dramatic lighting and very, yeah, I'm all for it. Let's just put it that way. When I think about a lot of the movies I like, I would say, like you said, Sin City. I would also argue that the Dark Knight series might be neo noir. Uh, I don't know. So yeah, I'm a
I
fan.
could see that influence. I could kind of see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, I just think it adds a certain elegance, especially to certain stories. It's like, I mean, yeah, you could make an Iron Man movie and film it in the noir style, and it may not work because it doesn't work for the character. It doesn't work for the high flying story. But to do it for any kind of a crime movie, whether it be something like this or something like a Heat or something like that, or maybe just some guy who, not even a team of criminals, just somebody on their own getting ready to plan this heist. I think it's a very interesting filming style for the right story.
Mm-hmm.
Again, doesn't work for every story, doesn't work for every set of characters, doesn't work for every director. So, I mean, directors, like most people, they kind of have their expertises. And, you look at a guy like Tarantino, he's got his way of doing things. A guy like Spielberg, he's got his way of doing things. But, I mean, for some directors, the way that they direct, the way that they tell the story, matters a lot with their kind of filming style and what filming style works best, if not for them as a whole as directors for the specific movie. Now, I think Spielberg is a guy that can adapt. I mean, the guy's been one of the
Mm-hmm.
great directors for 30 or 40 years now, so I think he's somebody that can adapt. There are a couple of directors out there that I think could probably do it. There are others that it's like Ron Howard. I don't know if he would ever do a noir film all that great because I don't think that's not generally the way he makes movies. It's not generally the way he sees
Yeah.
the canvas when it's still
Yeah.
blank. I don't think he sees it like that. So, but yeah, I love it. I think it's a great way to tell stories like this, especially when you want to give things an older feel but have them set in the modern day. There's something about the color palettes of a noir movie that are really good. Did you guys ever get a chance to see Nightmare Alley from a couple of years ago, nominated for Best Picture
I've never
with
even heard of it.
oh, it's very much the same style. It's kind of like it's almost fantasy noir a little bit. Very
Okay.
good movie. I mean, the ending of that
I
movie.
heard the name, but I don't think I saw it. That name
Yeah,
sounds familiar.
that's filmed in a very noir style. I think it's even based like back in the 40s or 50s or something like that. But that's shot in a
Right.
very, very deep noir style. Very good movie. You guys, Cora, I know you'll get a kick out of it because it's very not murder mystery, but it's very, very dark.
What's it called
There's
again?
It's called Nightmare Alley.
I'm gonna look it
Yeah,
up here.
not really.
It's got what's his name? Guy that does Rocket Raccoon's voice. We're drawing a blank. Bradley Cooper. It's got
Oh yeah.
Kate
I do
Blanchett
got a
is in
thing for
it.
the blondes. I do got a thing for the blondes. So yeah.
It's got Kate Blanchett. I mean, it's loaded with a bunch of good actors as well, just like
Oh,
this movie
I
is.
see. I see it here. Yeah, yeah.
It's very good,
Cool.
very good movie. I did some short reviews of it, of all the Oscar-nominated pictures a couple of years ago, and it was one of the ones nominated for Best Picture. Very good movie, very, very good movie. I think the only movie I liked better than that year was Belfast. Belfast just hit me different, but both very, very good films. But let's take some time now to move on to a little bit of trivia. And boy, I've got some doozies here, especially when it comes to how things have gone for some of the people that were in the movie. Let's see. The stolen emeralds that they get earlier on the film, they were actually real gemstones that were on loan for the film. Not
Cool.
unheard of to give a film
Yeah.
access to a lot of priceless things.
Well,
But
isn't there like a financial advantage too for they can get paid for loaning them out? So I mean, it can be a money thing.
I mean, maybe they rented them. Maybe sometimes it's just product placement. Sometimes it's like, we'll let you use these jewels if you put our business name in the movie or whatever. Sometimes it's kind of a trade like that. But it's not unheard of, but it's still kind of uncommon to actually get real life artifacts. Did you ever see The Hateful Eight?
Yeah.
Tarantino movie, The Hateful Eight. The guitar that gets smashed in that scene was actually a very old, like 150-year-old guitar that was loaned to the production for the movie because of the way that it plays, the way it's tuned. And when the guitar was smashed, it was Kurt Russell that did it, I believe. He thought that the guitar had been swapped out for a prop.
Oh.
So when it had smashed the fuck out of this guitar that was worth several hundred thousands of dollars, that ended up having to be paid for by the production company. But so yeah, it's not unheard of to have cars, especially. I mean, whenever there's a movie about racing or something, you'll see Ferraris and Lamborghinis. They're often, those are the most common things. But I want to say, I'd have to look this up to make sure, but I want to say in Pretty Woman, the whole thing where he closes the thing on her hand and makes her laugh. I want to say those were actual real pearls. It was like something like
it was
$20,000 or $30,000 necklace. Yeah, $20,000 or $30,000 necklace that they wanted it to look really good on camera. So like, let's go get the real thing. It's not unheard of to have jewelry and stuff loaned out. But
that scene was unscripted, by the way. That was just Richard Gere being funny, and they kept it in the film.
Sometimes improv is the best. There was a little bit in here that we might talk about here in a minute. But when Redfoot actually flicks his cigarette into the face of McManus, it was originally supposed to hit McManus in the chest. So McManus's reaction is actually Stephen Baldwin's real unscripted reaction, which Bryan Singer decided to keep in the movie. It actually ended up hitting him in the face instead of in the chest.
Yeah, that was funny. Down here we call that, hitting somebody with a firefly. Normally how it works, like one time a buddy of mine got me, we were headed somewhere, we were both driving our own trucks, and he pulls up next to me at the stop sign and he goes, "Hey, you know what's bad in Texas? Fireflies." And he flicks a cigarette that was like already lit into my truck. And he took off driving. Of course, it's a funny ha-ha thing. He got a little burn hole in the seat, but no big deal. But yeah, I enjoyed that part. Yeah,
someone throws a cigarette in my car and burns a hole in my seat, I'm throwing something else back at them at about 1,400 feet per second.
Oh no, don't worry. he got his due and just payback. Don't worry. But it's just kind of a funny game. It was, so it's all good.
Let's see. The idea for this movie actually started only with the concept of a movie poster of 5 men in a lineup.
That's fantastic.
Oddly enough, that's actually not out of range. I mean, go listen to someone like Roger Corman, who's the king of the exploitation B movies. Most of his films started from a poster idea or a title, and then they figured it out from there. I mean, that's kind of how a lot of movies were done back then. I'm not surprised whatsoever at that.
But where does any idea come from, really? It comes from this one little thing that like it catches your brain the right way, and then like in half a second it kind of builds a couple of branches off here and there in whatever direction, and then next thing you know it ends up getting written into a movie or into a song or into a piece of poetry or even painted for Christ's sake. I mean, where does the idea for any piece of art begin other than just like a word or a phrase or something like that? But which kind of takes us to the next piece of trivia. The title came from the infamous line from Casablanca in 1942, where he says, "Round up the usual suspects."
Nice. I like the classic tie-in.
I almost think this movie would be even better if it was set in like the 40s or the 50s. I mean, I get it's cheaper to shoot. It's cheaper to shoot on a modern.
But I see what you're saying.
Than present day. But if this was set in like 1945 or something, whatever it may be, set it post World War II, so everybody's home, whatever. But I think it would have played better, but it's a lot more expensive to shoot a time period movie because the costumes and the cars and whatever. But it is what it is.
I don't know. I kind of like the fact that they made it kind of an old style heist movie in the modern day, well, modern for 1995.
They also didn't have them carrying cell phones that much. There wasn't a lot of modern. I mean, it did feel like an old movie in modern times. So I hear what you're saying, but
Think so.
it also seemed very, even for 95 or whatever, 99, whenever this came out.
I think 95, they were probably not quite to cell phones yet. Pagers maybe, but not quite cell phones.
The only cell phone I can remember was Giancarlo when he went at the beginning of the movie. Whenever he first goes to see the half-burned guy, he pulls his phone out. That's the only cell phone I can remember.
Exactly.
Yeah. So the technology was still very new. So maybe it just wasn't widespread enough to where they felt the need to put it in the movie. But more inspiration for Keyser Söze. We find a decent picture to put up here. I guess this will work.
It's a cool name. Let's admit it. It's a very cool name.
It is a very cool name. It's a very unique name. But Christopher McQuarrie's inspiration for the character of Keyser Söze was a real-life murderer by the name of John List, who murdered his entire family that disappeared for almost 20 years.
Yep.
Wow.
John List. Yeah, John List killed people on the East Coast. I think he was in New York, I want to say.
Oh, now you mentioned it, I think I recall him.
John List, he was this super uptight, hardcore Christian guy. Basically, he had this huge house that he couldn't afford, so he had to get money from his mama, and then he lost his job, and he kept losing money, whatever. And basically, in his head, his idea was, well, if my family can't be rich, they just need to go to heaven. So he killed all of them. And then he fled to Colorado, and he was working as a line cook in some restaurant or something. And that's where they finally caught him. He had remarried and everything else. And he was probably the most. John List, not just that, but he also was inspired the movie The Stepfather with the guy, the bald guy from Lost. I can't remember his name now. But the Stepfather movies from the 80s, those are actually pretty good too. I like those. The first two, but I didn't realize John List inspired this. That's interesting.
Yeah, it seems like he's inspired probably a couple of things. I mean, just doing a little bit quick reading about him, it's almost like what's his name, Ed Gein. Like you pull a little piece and then build this whole different thing around him. You build a thing like Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
I'll put it to you this way: John List was one of those guys that wore a three-piece suit everywhere he went. When he mowed his yard, he would wear a three-piece suit.
No.
This is how uptight this guy was. No, seriously, go look into it. I've got some podcasts. I can send you that. Yeah, no, this guy was. I mean, he would whenever he lost his job, for the last time, he would go sit at he would leave the house, get ready, because he didn't want his wife to know. His wife was just as crazy as he was. She was lush and everything else. He would go sit at the train station for 8 hours and then come back home like he went to work or whatever. I mean, John List was a nutso. He was way out there.
Yeah, I'm reading a little bit about him. Also in the military.
We can't all be successfully mentally healthy, so.
Oh no, he was. He was a wackaday for sure.
Yeah, see, originally, Keyser Söze was supposed to have the name Keyser Söze, named after Christopher McQuarrie's old boss. He allowed his old boss to read the script and did not want to be associated with an inherently evil villain, so requested a change be made. I might be pissed off that you just based the villain on me, period, whether you name him after me or not. It's I don't care what you named him, but did you have to write him after me? Did it have to be based on me? I'm more concerned with that.
Depending on the size of the check that I got out of it, I might be okay with it, but it is what it is. So.
I'll let you call me an asshole all you want on screen, as long as there's enough zeros on that check.
Yeah,
enough zeros behind the one, and we're good.
Just say how many zeros are going to be on that check. I'm willing to negotiate, but it is what it is. So.
Let's see. One of mine and Jeremy's favorite actors, and I'm sure probably Texas as well, is Michael Biehn. Michael Biehn was actually asked to audition for the role of McGinnis, but passed on the offer because he found the script too confusing. The role ended up going to Stephen Baldwin, who was the second choice. Bean later admitted that he had made a huge mistake in taking the role.
Well, even the way Stephen Baldwin plays this guy, he plays him as he's like a lion in the jungle. Whether he's in the prison cell or not the prison cell, but the jail cell, or once, whenever they knock over that one police car in New York, they're splitting all this stuff up. Even, he's the toughest guy in the room. Even when somebody looks at him that he don't think properly, do we got a problem when they're just, he goes from trying to start a fight to having a toast. I did laugh at that. I thought that was kind of fun. But, I like how he did it.
Yeah, it was just a couple of years before this, I think, in '93, that he played Johnny Ringo in Tombstone. So, which I like him as Johnny Ringo better than I like Stephen Baldwin as McManus. But I mean,
yeah,
do you want to be Uber? It would have worked with him. I think. I mean, as much as I like Stephen Baldwin in the role, I think it would have worked.
God, Tombstone. As much as I love John Wayne and Clint Eastwood, Tombstone might be the greatest Western of all time.
I love it as a movie. I hate it as a historical drama.
Yeah.
Oh no, historical. No, you can't.
It's Hollywooded out. It's not.
Take the historical out of it. Just watch it.
Well,
my dad. Go ahead.
No, I was saying that movie very famously got Paramount sued.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
I didn't know they got sued for it.
Ike Clanton's family is still very alive and very prominent in the Southwest, and one of his living relatives, who ironically enough is the spitting image of Val Kilmer in the movie, a tall, gangly guy that wore all black and a hat and all that, actually sued Paramount, or whoever made the movie. Was it Paramount?
I think it was.
I forget who made it, but it was a Hollywood Pictures, distributed by Buena Vista. Yeah, but I mean, whoever made it, they actually sued the production company and won for defamation because of the way it portrayed Ike Clanton throughout the entire movie as being this like chicken shit little thief that was always running from a gunfight unless he had the clear advantage or unless he had all the cowboys behind him. They actually sued and won for defamation because they were like, hey, that's not what. They were like, we're not saying he wasn't a bad guy and broke some laws, but like the way you're portraying him is like well beyond what reality was. So they actually sued and won.
Man, I'll tell you, Tombstone, like I said, my old man, he wore out probably 3 or 4 copies of that VHS tape. That's one of those movies from my childhood that was always around. Yeah, I mean, think about how many lines came from that. Say when, I'm your Huckleberry. I'm coming and hell's following with me. I mean, there's just so many lines from that movie. It's just, like I said, that might be the greatest Western of all time. Historically, but I mean, just such a good film. I love that movie.
If you've ever seen the documentary Val on Amazon, but that Val Kilmer kind of made about himself over the years, he actually he was vlogging basically before vlogging was a thing. Like his entire career, he had like a video recorder on him, and he would record himself and his other people that he was working with on films on the set, just doing whatever. And so, he's got some footage of like him talking to Kurt Russell, like backstage behind the scenes in the trailer and stuff on Tombstone and stuff like that. And he tells a few stories about what it was like to work on Tombstone with all these guys. It's really, really interesting. It's a fantastic documentary. His son narrates it. And if you didn't know that it was his, if you didn't know that it was his son, you would think that they had like digitally remastered Val Kilmer's voice because he sounds dead ass like him.
Oh, cool!
Not a perfect representation, but sounds just like him. He actually his son narrated it. I think his son does some stuff. I don't think his son really acts a whole lot. I can look real quick to see. I want to make sure I'm getting it right.
I was just saying because I mean. Obviously, we live in the days of like when an actor dies, like whenever Paul Walker died, but they wanted to CGI him into the later Fast and Furious movies. They used like his brother or something, and then just put his face on the body to match.
Yeah.
That I figured because they like if they ever wanted to have something like that, they could do that. You know what I mean?
His son even looks dead ass like him. I'm not bullshitting you.
I'll be right back.
He was born in 1995, known for starring in the 2013 film Palo Alto. Why has that movie been popping up my radar so much the last couple of days? For playing Peely Dead Olin in the 2018 Norwegian black metal biopic Lords of Chaos, for playing Ozzy Osbourne in Ozzy's Under the Graveyard video. He also narrated Val, a documentary about his father, Val Kilmer. So yeah, he's just getting his career started. So he's 28 years old. So he's still young. He enjoys surfing, skateboarding, music. Same thing that all rich kids enjoy. Trying to look at some other things that he might have been in that. Yeah, nothing that he's done really jumps out at me, but I don't know why the hell he didn't play his dad character in Willow. I mean, that could have done any worse than what that show did anyway. But
well,
yeah,
you know, trying to think. Well, no, I was thinking because Val Kilmer was in the new Top Gun Maverick, correct?
He had like a glorified cameo, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, Val Kilmer has the health issues that he does, and if they ever wanted to do something with him, that might be a way they could digitally insert something over. Because if his son, you said born in 95, he would be, yeah, I mean, it could work. I don't know how you would do it. I'm not the technology guy. But I could see them doing something like that. You know?
Yeah, it could have been worse than just not having him in the Willow TV show. Because that of all the things wrong with that show on Disney Plus, not having Val Kilmer's character was one of the things that was off. It didn't work very well.
I don't think I ever got around to watching that show.
Don't bother. Don't bother. You're not gonna like it. I got some of the woke stuff they did. I mean, I got past it because whatever. Like they inserted some things, made a character gay that didn't need to. It just didn't really talk about it for the rest of the show. And I'm like,
well, it's Disney. What do you expect? Disney has to woke things up.
I think it probably would have been received better if they had just played it straight up and just made it an action adventure thing and not tried to modernize it with shit. But I mean, whatever.
Didn't they pull that down from Disney Plus as well? Like after or something?
I never got to watch the last 2 episodes.
Really? Wow.
I gave that show as much time as I could, and then it got to the last 2 episodes, and I just got busy. And then next thing I knew, Disney was just pulling it off Disney Plus. They were like, "Yeah, we don't like this shit either." And I was like, "Okay, never mind." And I have not missed it, to be honest. I've not felt sorry for not going back and revisiting the last 2 episodes. But yeah, they neutered Willow. Like Willow is a giant pussy in this entire series, and I'm like, he's your lead character. He's the one who saves the day of the movie. He should come into this movie already a kick-ass sorcerer, but they nerfed him and made him a big pussy for this entire movie.
I'm guessing that there's a new strong female character that kind of helps him along his journey because that's kind of Disney's MO these days.
That's not the bad part though. Oh, we lost Cora. Where'd Cora go? Hopefully she'll come back in a minute.
She must have got a call or something.
She might have. But yeah, I mean, there's so much stuff that could have gone right. I mean, you had strong characters. The female characters weren't the problem. The problem was the characters that needed to be awesome were terrible. They just weren't good at all. And I mean, the writing was whatever. The story was whatever. It could have worked, but I mean, it was just so hard to get into that. But let's talk about a little bit of potential casting that could have happened. Jeff Bridges, Johnny Cash, Chris Cornell, which is really weird, Tommy Lee Jones, Charlie Sheen, James Spader, and Christopher Walken were all offered the part of Redfoot, the LA Fence.
Wow.
You know what, though? I'm not going to lie. As I was reading his name, I don't like it when musicians try to get into acting just for the sake of doing it. But Chris Cornell would have been badass. I still am a big Soundgarden fan, and I loved Chris Cornell.
I don't know. Johnny Cash was a pretty solid actor himself. I mean, yeah, most of the work that he did was in Westerns back in like the 80s or whatever. But I could have seen Johnny Cash or even I think Charlie Sheen could have done something well with this as just the same.
Well, I mean, the question is, how much do you want to pay the guy to come in for basically 2 scenes? So, I mean, would it have been cool to have seen Christopher Walken? Yeah, but the problem is I don't want to see Christopher Walken in 2 scenes. I want to see Christopher Walken in the whole movie. Jeff Bridges could have been interesting. Johnny Cash, I think, would have been interesting to see him. Cornell would have worked out beautifully.
What year did Pulp Fiction come out? Was that 94?
Pulp Fiction, I do not know off the top of my head. And Lady Quarter's back. Yay.
Sorry about that. I don't know what the fuck happened. Computers.
I say that because Christopher Walken kind of
1994.
has. Yeah, I thought it was 94 because he comes in as the soldier that gives the watch to Bruce Willis as a kid, just for a couple of scenes. So maybe that's why he didn't, because it was so similar to. I mean, obviously it's two different roles, but they're used in the same way. Maybe that's why they didn't do it. And I mean, Charlie Sheen, he had already done. See, Major League had already came out by 95.
Oh yeah, that was the late 80s.
He was already a pretty big name. Like he would have been an expensive get at that point, so they probably couldn't afford Charlie Sheen or anything. I wouldn't think so.
It depends on how high on coke he was. If he did coke money really bad, he probably would have been like, "Yeah, I'll do it for $25."
Right. We will pay you in this mountain of cocaine. Here, come do our movie.
Yeah, well, just take scale. Just take scale, Charlie. You're gonna walk out here with a check, and you can go to the Viper room and do whatever the hell you're gonna do.
We will give you 3 shovels worth of cocaine, however much you can get in 3 shovels.
But yeah, Lady Cora, what do you think? I don't know if you heard the names that I rattled off there that potentially could have played Redfoot. One of them was Jeff Bridges. Now this is for the role of Redfoot,
Jeff Bridges
the LA
is fantastic.
Fence. But Jeff Bridges, Johnny Cash, Chris Cornell, the lead singer of Soundgarden, Tommy Lee Jones, Charlie Sheen, James Spader, and Christopher Walken were all
Well, James Spader, I'm a big fan of, but let me tell you, whoever the guy is who played him, to me did a fantastic job. I mean,
you know what?
And let's be honest, he has what, 2 scenes for what?
Yeah, what I'm saying is, how big of an actor do you really want to get for those scenes?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I'd say.
Well, I mean, for anybody to watch, if you haven't seen James Spader on the Blacklist, it was the NBC television
James
show.
Spader is great
Go
in everything he does. Just saying.
Yeah, he was good in that. And then, what was that lawyer show he did?
Stargate
Boston Legal
SG-1. He was.
I never watched that.
He also was in Boston Legal.
That's what I just said. That he was good on Boston Legal.
He marries.
That's what I was fixing to say. He was good until that last episode, and he goes marrying.
It's not bad. It was for health insurance and to take care of his best friend in old age.
It was just.
It was actually an act of love, platonically. So it's a good show.
Either way,
yeah. The actor that played him
Legal till the last.
The actor that played the role of Redfoot was actually Peter Green, is his name. He's a character actor. He's been in a million things. He was in The Mask, that Jim Carrey movie from 1994. He was the bad guy, Dorian Tyrell. Let's see. He was in Dark Siege 2. Not a great movie.
I think he played the priest in the remake of The Omen. I think that's where I know him from.
He played one of the dirty cops in Training Day, which is a fantastic fucking movie. Let's see.
Denzel's
in lots of, like I said, a character actor and a lot of smaller stuff, but nothing really big. He was in City of Lies, which was a decent enough movie back in 2018. It was a Johnny Depp movie. Let's see. And television, he's done stuff. Hawaii Five-0, the newer one, not the old one. Let's see. Some soap opera stuff, things like that. He was in Life on Mars, which I never watched. He was in Justified, which is a really good show. I haven't watched it all. It's a really good show. And he's done some
I still need to watch that new Justified. I don't know if it's even out yet, but they brought it back. I wonder if it's near them. It's probably not going to be
too, but I want to
It's probably not going to be as good.
The last season of Justified before we watch that, but apple pie,
Another piece of potential casting, I'm really sad that Jeremy is not here to kind of revel in this. According to his diaries, Alan Rickman turned down a role in this film. Me and Jeremy are both huge Alan Rickman fans.
Yeah.
I wonder, you know what? I feel like he could have played what Gabriel Byrne played.
It's funny you say that because as soon as you said he turned down a role, that's the first role I thought of that he could have been in.
When I think him, obviously you go to Professor Snape and Galaxy Quest, but I could see him in the Kevin Spacey role. I think he could have been maybe even better than Spacey did in this movie anyway.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of where he would have fit in. I mean, maybe he could have been Keyser Söze. I kind of like Spacey's performance. That's one of the things that has kind of carried this movie over the years is the love that people have for Kevin Spacey's performance in the film. I don't know. I feel like the only character he really could have played was the role that Gabriel Byrne played. I feel like that would have been where he'd have fit in the most.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Or he could have been one of the detectives as well. I mean, but that's just me. Let's see. In the making of documentary, both let me find a decent picture here. Both Stephen Baldwin and Kevin Pollak acknowledged that their long-standing feud with each other began on the set of this film. Though neither actor directly states what caused their animosity towards each other, Pollak does mention that Baldwin, in an attempt to stay in character as McManus, would go around acting tough and sometimes bully the other actors. Baldwin does admit that he was bullying towards Pollak on film. There are numerous standoff confrontations with each other on screen, obviously. But neither one of them has said exactly anything specific that caused their particular fallout. I don't know. I mean, it's not unusual in Hollywood for actors not to get along with each other and be friends offset. So, whatever.
Well, I mean, you also kind of have to take into account, I mean, to be an actor, you have to want the attention on you. So there's going to be a kind of a competition amongst your castmates to get the most screen time, to get to get your face seen the most and whatever. So I could see him. I mean, who knows what? I mean, they could argue whoever got the last donut at breakfast or something. Who freaking knows? But I could say it. I mean, it makes sense.
Let's see. In an interview on the Colbert Report, which whatever. I need a good picture. I don't have one. In an interview on the Colbert Report in 2005, Kevin Spacey revealed that Bryan Singer managed to convince every one of the major actors that they were Keyser Söze. When first screened for the company of for the company of actors, Gabriel Byrne was so stunned when he found out that he wasn't Keyser Söze that he stormed off into the parking lot and argued with Singer for half an hour.
Well,
that's
I mean,
even within the filming, there was a mystery unsolved, and then coming about. That's fantastic.
I wonder if they shot multiple endings to this movie where it was different.
I wonder. It doesn't say.
I mean,
accolades, legacy.
I've never seen this on DVD or anything. I'm sure it exists, but I wonder if there's whichever studio owns this nowadays, if, in the can somewhere they've got multiple endings or something. Where when the guy in the hat reveals himself, it's I mean, technically they already shot 2 of them, so it wouldn't be much harder to shoot a couple more. So.
Well, this is from Wikipedia, so take it as you will. Under the post-production banner, it says, during the editing phase, Singer thought that they had completed the film 2 weeks early, but woke up one morning and realized they needed that time to put together a sequence to convince the audience that Dean Keaton was Söze, and then do the same for verbal Kint, because the film did not have, quote, the punch that Chris had written so beautifully. According to Ottoman, he assembled the footage as a montage, but it still did not work until he added an overlapping voiceover montage featuring key dialogue from several characters and had it relate to the images. Early on, executives at Gramercy Pictures had problems pronouncing the name Keyser Söze and were worried that audiences would have the same problem. The studio decided to promote the character's name 2 weeks before the film debuted in theaters. Who is Keyser Söze posters appeared at bus stops and TV spots, told people how to say the character's name. In contrast to these efforts, all the actors in the film consistently mispronounced his name as Söze or Soze, one syllable with a silent E instead of Söze.
Now,
it doesn't say that there were multiple endings filmed, but I feel like they probably had a plan.
I do have a theory. Like I said, I've only seen this movie once, so I'm going to refer to y'all's expertise on this. If Keyser Söze was the devil incarnate, I mean, just the baddest guy ever, the most powerful guy, he's so powerful, even the big bad guys are scared of him.
Isn't that all hyped up, though?
Well, hang on a minute. Basically what I'm saying is, if he's so powerful and he knows there's one person out there that can identify him, wouldn't it make sense that he would send a lackey, like his most trusted assassin or whatever? Well, let's say
No, he
that
would
was
do it
the
himself.
Kevin Spacey role.
I disagree.
But
I
I
think
don't
that
know. I mean,
one time he would go himself.
I don't know. It kind of plays into. 'Cause I guess technically I have three theories. Either Kaiser Soze is just a myth that Kevin Spacey's character is just made up to play off of, or he is Kaiser Sose, or he's his number one lackey. I could go either one of those three directions. Like I said, I've only seen this once. I just there's a lot left to this that I don't know. I
If
don't
I was
know.
Keyser Söze, and even if I was just a mysterious guy that in some circles people feared, and there was one guy who could identify me, and I found out he was going to start working with law enforcement to try to pull me out, the underworld and hold me accountable for things I did. I mean, the
Right,
FBI guy did say, the customs guy said, "quote We have a guy who's been investigating for 3 years, so we clearly know he's somebody in some circle of the criminal world, to the point where law enforcement has one guy dedicated trying to figure this guy out for the last 3 years." But if I was him, I would fucking go myself. And in a way, you're right, because he did do both. He sent this group of 4 lackeys, and he went himself. So he used them as a shield
but
almost. So he did both.
if he's so powerful and such a just the top of the top bad guys, why would he allow himself to be in a position to be even caught and put on the usual suspects list whatsoever?
He
Why
didn't.
wouldn't he
No, no.
just?
I think you're getting it wrong. You're not understanding the movie. He didn't let himself. He
Maybe I'm not.
created that. He put himself. He planted himself in that
Yeah,
line of
but
work, and he
that goes
planted
back
himself
to
in the criminal world of Gabriel Byrne's character, so that he could have some type of connection enough for him to let the others trust him. So this was all formulated and planned by him. It wasn't just
right.
by
But once
accident.
again, that goes back to my other theory of your whole point is to get rid of the guy who can identify you. But in
Right.
doing that, you're exposing yourself to many,
No.
many, many others in the process.
No, because he knows he's going to get away with it.
I mean, I see what you're saying. It just seems like a flawed logic, I guess, in the plot. I don't know.
But
To me, there's
see,
a,
I disagree,
I don't
because he
know.
clearly set it up, and he created layers of protection. He has the lawyer, his own lawyer. He has
Right.
Gabriel Byrne's girlfriend, and he has the 4 usual suspects taking him at him.
Yeah.
I mean, he's created layers so that and it's just, I mean, he set the whole thing up masterfully, in my opinion.
No, I'm not arguing that it's not a masterful plan. I just think that it's maybe executed poorly. I mean, the best
How
laid
does it
plans,
execute it
that old
poorly?
saying.
He escaped. The guy who identified him is dead, and well, I mean, they did get his face,
But now the
but
police have a
exactly,
sketch of what he looks
yeah,
like
but he's
exactly
gonna go
and
under. I
everything
mean,
else.
all the people who
I don't
had
know.
maybe perhaps who he had felt wronged him are dead,
Right,
and he got out of it, and you could tell at the very end, before he left the police station, his face
right.
had shifted, and he was almost just having fun with it. So you could tell he wasn't even that worried
Yeah.
about this. I mean, and he, at that time, he didn't know the guy was talking to a sketch artist. He assumed the guy was dead. He didn't know the
Well,
guy had survived in the sewer somehow, whatever. And so actually, he doesn't know he's been identified. So we're wrong about
how
this.
stupid. Obviously, I know it's the big reveal at the end of the movie where the cop sees the name on the bottom of the coffee cup and the
Yeah. And
the
all the stuff on the clipboard,
everything on the
how he's made
wall
it
and
up.
whatever. But
Mm-hmm.
how do you not notice that before?
Because
Any
he
of
was
it?
so obsessed. He was obsessed
I
with
don't know.
talking to this guy. He knew
I
the
don't
guy.
know.
He had 2 hours before that guy was getting released. He was so happy to even get a chance to talk to him, and he's focused on Gabriel Byrne's character so much. He doesn't even know who Keyser Söze is when this conversation starts. So that when he is being told this version of Keyser Söze's life, he's enchanted like you and I are as moviegoers. He's sitting there eating it up like a fat kid with popcorn who's on a diet for 2 months going to the movies for the first time. You know, it's just like he's eating it up, and all of a sudden he realizes it. And then you could the way he ran out of there and tried to find him, and I loved the camera angle of the Bentley going around the corner right behind his head as he turns around and realizes he got away. Fucking fantastic.
Whenever I saw that scene, and have y'all seen the first Scary Movie?
Oh yeah,
I believe so. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think I even have it on DVD. I'm not sure.
When Officer Doofy at the end of the movie walks out of the police station, all retarded and whatever, and then as he's walking away, he's stripping off layers, and by the end of it, he's a cool guy, and he hops into the convertible and drives away. When I saw that scene at the end of this, that's what I thought of as well. I thought it was kind of funny how they kind of ripped on that. I'm like, wait a minute, I've seen this before, and then of course, I think Scary Movie was made like 99 to 2000, so maybe they saw The Usual Suspects, and that kind of inspired that.
They absolutely spoofed that with Doofus.
Yeah, it was like, because I mean, it's literally almost a shot for shot, remake of this film, just in Scary Movie 4 years later. But I don't know. Plot wise, I get what you're saying, and I can understand how you can see that. But for me, it just, like I said, I've got 3 theories, and I'm probably not the first one that's thought of these theories. This movie's 30 years old. There's no way.
That's what this movie's meant for. It's doing to you and me in different ways what it was meant to do, to get you.
This kind of seems like. Were you here when we reviewed Clue? Or no, you weren't with us on that. We had Alex with us that night, I think. This seems like a lot like Clue, and the facts of the ending really don't matter because it's just it is what it is. How you get to the ending is kind of your own journey, I guess. Is kind of what
you could choose your own adventure book from the 80s
and
90s.
Right. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I have to agree with Tex that if you were to watch this movie for the first time right now, and then I were to look at you and say, what do you think? You would have to say to yourself, it works, his whole plan, but it really is kind of taking a long way around the horse's ass. Because think about it. There's one person, Postlethwaite's character I forget his name, but there's one person who knows exactly who he is.
The lawyer.
Kobayashi, yeah. So he's the only person that actually knows. So why not just send that guy to hire a hitman and still maintain your anonymity?
Because he wanted to evoke revenge on the other 4.
Well, yeah,
for the
that
crimes
makes
they
sense,
committed.
but still. But the thing is like a guy like
and you don't think he needed them as a cover to get on the ship to kill the guy himself who could identify him? Like, he wanted to do it himself.
But see, that's the point. If you're that high and mighty in the criminal world, you can hire or order whoever you need.
But if this is the one guy who can identify you, you want to know he's dead by your own eyes, by your own hand, and your ego is so big you're not going to trust anyone else.
I get that. To me, it's just is the juice worth the squeeze? How much have to expose
clearly
yourself?
It was for him.
You're going to have to allow yourself to be put into police custody, whether you get immunity or not. That doesn't matter. But you're exposing yourself. There's so many variables that you're opening up. Yeah, but he has such good
lawyers, and he has probably people bought within the Justice Department on a federal level.
Oh, I'm sure.
Gotten out. He already had the immunity deal in place before he even was arrested.
I don't know.
The lineup, he knew what was going to happen, I think.
I think Frank's right. I think you're going a long way to get the short path, but I don't know. It is what it is. So.
Yeah, I feel like if Keyser Söze was a real person, that a real person wouldn't have put themselves in a position, even to play a game to satisfy yourself, wouldn't put themselves in a position to where he would be sitting face to face with not one but 2 cops and be technically in cursory custody for several hours. I don't think anybody in real life would allow that to happen to themselves. Now, the idea of hiring this gang to do the hit and then somehow setting them up to be killed immediately thereafter makes perfect sense. but
Right.
I figure he would be juiced in enough everywhere that he wouldn't have to put himself physically, personally in any kind of jeopardy to get it done. He very easily could have worked it to where the whole ship was planted with explosives anyway. The guy's on there. Yeah. He sends the guy. He sends the team on there to off the guy. They off the guy. He hits the trigger, blows all the people up, so they don't know anything, and then he does it all remotely from some palace in Monaco. I feel like it's an unnecessary risk to take for a little bit of revenge, because I can't imagine that anybody with his position would value revenge over freedom. You know what I mean?
Right.
It seems like the risk doesn't quite make the reward. And
to kind of answer Cora's question that she just talked about, then if that's the case, then you wouldn't even have a movie. But if once again, this goes back to one of my three theories that Keyser Söze is not even a real person, but it's maybe it's a myth that's within the criminal world. Oh, nobody knows who he is, right? And Kevin Spacey's character is playing off of that myth because he is smarter than everybody else. So Keyser Söze, the whole story of his family.
And why would the informant know what he looks like, and why would there be 3 years of investigation about trying to figure out who the fuck he is in a law enforcement agency?
Hearsay can be a very powerful thing. I mean, have you never played a game of telephone with your friends where one tells one story and it grows and it grows and it grows? You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I can make a case. Keyser Söze is not real. Kevin Spacey is actually him, or he's his number one guy orchestrating all of this. I could go either way with it and make a pretty convincing case, but it is what it is.
Or maybe Keyser Söze is like the Dread Pirate Roberts. He's maybe it's a mantle that somebody has for now, and when that person dies or is taken out or whatever, somebody else elevates into being Keyser Söze.
Yeah. It's kind of like once again, another Christopher Nolan tied to Batman Begins with Ra's al Ghul. How is Ra's al Ghul even a man? The whole thing that he did with that. I mean, that could make sense too. This is even more like Clue than I realized when I first watched it. Talking to y'all about it. You can go 15 different ways with this.
It was Keyser Söze with a team of assholes on a boat. But one more, Christopher McQuarrie, the writer, has actually got a small cameo at the very end of the movie, and I wish I'd have gotten a screen grab of this. The writer can be seen as the police officer at the very end of the film on the left-hand side of the frame as Dave Kujan looks for verbal Kint. He is visibly laughing at the camera in a nod and wink gesture to the audience who got bamboozled. He's the cop that's on the left side talking to the two girls. I think it's two females he's talking to.
So he got his Hitchcock moment there. So.
You know what? That's actually kind of funny as a writer or a director to be able to have that moment to where the crowd is the audience is freshly just bulldozed by this whole plot twist, and then you just get a chance to look at him and go, "I got you, motherfucker." That seems like a pretty awesome moment for somebody in his position. I think it'd be pretty awesome.
I'm gonna have to go back and look at that scene again. I'm curious to see that once we get off here. I'm gonna look at you turning it back on Tubi just to go to that scene or whatever. That's interesting. I didn't. I mean, I couldn't tell you what Chris McKay looks like or whatever, but I'll just spot him out.
I know what he looks like. I've seen pictures of him recently because like I said, he's been directing all the Mission Impossible stuff with Tom Cruise. So. No. But one last piece of trivia, and again, we've talked endlessly about the Me Too and how Hollywood's a terrible place to women and has been for years. And I'll put the spotlight on Kevin Spacey for this one. In December 2017. Amid a flood of misconduct allegations against Kevin Spacey, Gabriel Byrne said that at one point during shooting, production was shut down for 2 days because Spacey made an unwanted advance towards a younger actor. In June of 2018, Kevin Pollak claimed that the person in question was actually the then boyfriend of director Bryan Singer.
Wow.
Wow.
Not surprised.
I'm not surprised. Not even a little bit.
That really... I don't remember the year that this came out, but I'm sure y'all remembered the Family Guy episode where Stewie's running through the mall help, I just escaped from Kevin Spacey's basement or whatever. Like, I mean, at the time we didn't know that, Kevin Spacey's actually a super creepo that needs to be investigated. But I mean, I wonder how many people in Hollywood knew and just didn't tell. Like,
here's one of the reasons why I think it was a lot of people, and this has nothing to do with this movie. This is just a theory that I have. Seth MacFarlane, the creator of Family Guy, who you just mentioned,
right?
A lot of people haven't talked about it, but he's got this very Simpsons way of, when you look back on some of the older episodes of Family Guy and some of the other things that he's done, there's little gags that he puts in that have come true. I don't know if you remember several years ago, before all this Me Too stuff started, before Harvey Weinstein, before all this, he was one of the people that was announcing the nominations for the Academy Awards several years ago. And when he was announcing the award for, it was either Best Actress or Best Supporting Actress, one of those two awards, they announced the awards, and then in true fashion, probably written to do so, he made a joke, and the joke was, congratulations to all the nominees, now you don't have to pretend to like Harvey Weinstein. And everybody got a laugh at it because they were like, oh, it's funny. But looking back on it now, you're like, wait a minute, what did he know? What was he trying to tell us? and then you talk about the Kevin Spacey joke just now. And then there's other things that he's always little drops of dialogue, usually in the cutaways in Family Guy, so where they happen really fast, so they don't really stick with you. You giggle the moment you move on. But there's been all kinds of evidence of stuff like this happening. Like I said, it's not like people in Hollywood didn't know. I mean, Hollywood's been a place that has fostered that kind of attitude toward that kind of acceptance of treating women not so great since its inception. So, I mean, whatever.
It really makes you, when Seth MacFarlane, especially in the conspiracy world, just from all of this kind of stuff, to all the stories about him and 9/11 and everything else that Seth MacFarlane has been connected to over the years, him and Matt Groening of The Simpsons, these dudes know some stuff. Somebody needs to go over and talk to these guys because they've got there's some unknown psychic stuff they've got going on, or they've got some stories on some folks. You know what I mean? So that's interesting.
I especially like that one conspiracy theory. It wasn't on any of the TV shows or anything, that Steve Bannon is actually Barron Trump from the future. That one makes me laugh.
Yeah,
that one makes me laugh.
Barron Trump's a time traveler. Yeah, I've heard that one.
Because to me, it's not big news. If that were true, and it obviously isn't, but if that were true, the bigger news to me would be like, wait a minute, we cracked time travel? That's bigger news to me. But whatever.
Well, yeah,
kind of burying the lead there when you make these conspiracy theories. You know what I mean? But
it's weird. It's crazy.
Yeah. So again, just people should have spoke out a long time ago, and it's hard for me to blame one person. The entire industry's been at fault. So whatever.
Right.
But we'll start to go ahead and wrap things up now. Again, Jeremy not here today, and I was really bummed because this is one of the movies I know that he really wanted to do. But we're hitting that time of year where Jeremy is very, very busy. He's got the stuff going on at his haunt. All the cosplay stuff he does isn't just for shits and giggles. This is kind of what Jeremy does. So he's going to be working at the cable lot over the course of the next couple of months. So there's going to be some shows that he misses, but he will be back. He will be here whenever his time makes it available. I know Jeremy's going to try to be here for most of the stuff, but there's going to be some things that he missed. He just happened to miss tonight. We look forward to seeing him back on Thursday when we go over.
By the way, I have to say, his makeup for your show last night for the what are they called, the Saw movies, was fucking fantastic. Fucking
he did well. I mean,
and congrats on your inaugural show on the series, by the way.
Yeah, it was cool. We got to do the first three, but a little pull behind the curtain for Jeremy. The contacts that he was wearing for that, if you notice him blinking like every 5 seconds, it's because those were basically killing his eyes. And he sat there for the whole time and powered through like a man. And kudos to him for not dumping them halfway through. So it was funny. The second we got off, I mean, we hit the end live button. He was off screen yanking those things out of his head.
I wondered where he went because as soon as he clicked in stream, he just got up and ran. I was like, I can stick out bullshit, Jay. Come on, man.
Yeah, no. As soon as we ended the live, he was off screen and he was yanking them things out of his eyeballs. But it was pretty funny. So he stuck it out, for y'all. So I hope you enjoyed it. So it's all good.
But let's start to wrap things up now. Let me get your guys' final thoughts. I'll start with you, Lady Cora. Quick final thoughts overall on The Usual Suspects.
This is for me, it's a cult classic mystery, and I love it, and it's one I would watch again. So, yeah. I'd even own it on physical media if I ran across it for the right price.
I'm sure you can. I don't know if you want it on Blu-ray, it might cost a few bucks more, but probably the $5 bit at Walmart.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
To my friend Tex, sum it up. What do you think of the movie?
Very well casted, very well acted, convoluted, but worth watching. If not for anything, but the conversations that you can have with your friends, like the three of us have been having over what was real, what's this, what's that. I mean, like I said, I'm completely new to this. This was a one-time watch for me, and I could see me watching this again just to try to uncover more of what's more likely. You know what I mean? But check it out.
Yeah, this is one of the movies that I think you should watch twice. Because you're going to watch it the first time, You're going to try to follow. You're probably going to get lost at a step or two. But then when it hits you at the very end and you realize what's really been going on and it all falls into place in that moment, it's great. And then when you go back the second time to watch it, you're going to find yourself looking at some of these cues and you're going to say, wait a minute, I missed that the first time. So watching it the second time, you start to see things that you didn't see the first time. And even now, it's like I noticed things like when I was watching it today. I noticed like camera angles and stuff. Like you're constantly seeing things from Keyser's point of view at different shots to kind of give you a hint. There's little hints about when Kevin Spacey comes on camera. There can be little indications as to what the big secret is at the end. So one of the fun things about movies like this is there's always, if you've watched it 20 times, there's always one detail that is so minuscule that either you forgot about it over the years or you just never caught it all the other times that you watched it. And that gives you that one moment of freshness in a movie that you already know what happens. That's one of the fun things about movies like this. They have they're these gifts that keep on giving, sort of. And unless you've watched the movie 7,000 times and you've gotten breakdowns and you've done the cliff notes and you've gone online like I do and read about all the different things, there's little things that you're going to catch every now and again if you're an astute viewer, which is really fun. And then also, again, great cast. Gabriel Byrne, fantastic. Just really good stuff. And it was made at a time when you could still like Kevin Spacey. So, I mean, everything since the allegations has been hard not to like. But I have all the pre-allegation Kevin Spacey stuff that I can enjoy. So that's pretty good because let's face it, he's been a good actor. He's made some great movies. So. Separate the art from the artist. Sometimes it's the only way we can get along. But we're going to start to wrap this up now. Thanks to my amazing co-hosts. Again, Jeremy will be back soon. Lady Cora, where can the folks on the internet find you on the internet?
Really nowhere but here on your channel. I'm pretty allergic to the internet. Happy to be here, though.
I still like that idea that Really Mysterious had about doing like a 15 or 20 minute video where you don't say what movie you're talking about, you speak about it in the abstract. Ooh. And then you make people guess what movie you were reviewing, and then like maybe at the end you say, okay, we're reviewing The Usual Suspects.
Now would you leave out like key actors, like names? And I mean, you would almost have to, right?
Well, I mean, you could say Kevin Spacey and you'd be like, well, he's been in a bunch of movies, so how do I know for sure what movies he's in? That would be the hard part, is how do you talk about the characters and the actors and maybe even the plot kind of in the abstract and not make it obvious? Because I could be like,
the main character, the bad guy, the love interest.
A bunch of guys get together in LA to rob for a big score. It's like I could be talking about Heat. I could be talking about a couple of movies. I could theoretically be talking about The Usual Suspects, but there are certain...
You could even say it's a neo-noir film from the 90s.
Yeah.
You would have to pick genre films like crime drama or slasher or something that there's a lot of. Otherwise, if you get too specific, it's going to make it real easy.
I think it would have to be very meticulously produced and scripted. I don't think it's something you could do live.
Or you could have an episode, Frank, where what's that movie? and you have a list of movies, and we spend 5 minutes on each, and we see who in the chat guesses the first movie first, and we just go through them. And then it's not one movie, and we don't have to be that meticulous.
Well, you could either go that way, or do like make it like a game show out of it kind of thing, where you get like 5 clues, like you give like generic plot, right?
Mhm.
Oh, man goes to city to rob bank, blah blah blah, whatever. And then you give like, select a number of clues that you get, and whoever can guess, so you don't say like, Robert De Niro drives a car in this movie. He's a driver of something. Like, you wouldn't get that specific with it. You would have to be real careful how you did it or whatever.
Or we do a top 5 episode where it's like our top 5 movies of all time, and we're only allowed to say a summary like this, and the other co-hosts have to guess what movie it is, and we get points if we get it right.
I've been wanting to do a trivia thing for a while. I was talking with Knight from the Night Watch Zone for really the last couple of years. Mm-hmm. I've been knocking this idea around with him about doing getting a bunch of like the movie YouTubers together, me, him, Gory B movie, werewolf, a bunch of things. Anybody who wants to get involved in doing like a trivia thing, and we'll spread like the different matches out amongst everybody's channel so that we all get like some watch time and some clicks and stuff out of it, maybe even add some subscribers. And then we'll just crown a champion at the end, and whoever wins, I'll send them like a plaque or something. I don't know.
Well, it'd be a good way to network for sure.
Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of great things that could come about for it. It's just I haven't had time to set it up. It seems like every time I start to knuckle down and try to get it worked out, that life gets in the way. so it gets kind of, and sometimes part of it is occasionally it's just me being lazy and not wanting to do anything. Sometimes it's just like I have this bad habit of getting like 3 or 4 ideas in my head, and I can't work more than one at a time. So a couple of them have to kind of fall to the wayside, and I think that's been part of it as well.
I'm sure that we'll do like an end of the year, top 5 like we did last year or something. I mean, we could do something like that. So,
but so definitely some new reviews coming up as well. Don't forget that we're going to be here on. Well, Tex and I will be here tomorrow. Actually, we're going to be breaking down week 1 of the football season. Obviously, 1 or 2 big stories to talk about for those of you who are watching the game last night.
Yeah,
and we'll get into the whole Aaron Rodgers thing, and then also we'll talk a little bit fantasy football. Who on the waiver wire do you think we'll pick up? Is there somebody on your roster that you want to drop? We'll break down some fantasy football stuff for you tomorrow, and then we'll be back Thursday to break down possibly one of the best westerns ever made in Unforgiven with Clint Eastwood. So we'll be here Thursday to do that. Again, so it's a full slate from here on out for probably the next 4 months. You're going to be seeing us, for the next several weeks, 4 nights a week, and then steadily 3 nights a week for the rest of 2023, for the rest of calendar year. There's going to be plenty of content over here. So don't forget to go down there and like, share, do all the stuff you need to do. I think we're only 11 away now or something like that. We actually had
last night we were at 488 right before we went live. We were at 488. So
we're at 489 right now. I know we added a new subscriber today because I got the notification. So we're at 49. We're 11 away from 500. That's the magic spot to where we can at least start getting some super chat money rolling in. Not any advertising. I don't really care about the advertising revenue from YouTube, but just another way that we will be able to get you guys interacting with the stream and stuff like that. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So come and check us out tomorrow when we talk football, and then come check us out on Thursday as we talk about Unforgiven. I want to thank my amazing co-hosts for being so great as usual. You guys are fantastic. I love having you guys around. We're having a lot of fun doing this. I don't see it slowing down anytime soon. We'll see Jeremy back here on Thursday, and until next time, adios.
Bye.
I mean, it really was the long way around the horse's ass if you think about it. I mean, if you got that much money and power, just hire a hitman. Now you got to show 4 other people what you look like, just because of this one guy who knows what you look like.
That's I'm going to expose myself to the world to get the one idiot that probably doesn't even speak English. Like, that makes no sense to me.
I guess we would just make bad crime bosses.